What's up, people of YouTube? This is Troll here, bringing you guys another video to the channel, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my overall first impressions video for the multiplayer of Modern Warfare. So Modern Warfare has been out for about 4 days at the time of me recording this, and it's gotten its fair share of criticism and hate on Twitter and Reddit and everywhere else on the internet. So I just kind of wanted to make a video giving you guys my opinion and how I feel about the game as a whole right now. I also do want to apologize. I do have a very stuffy nose because I have gotten kind of sick over the last day or so with a little bit of a cold and some sinus issues, but just continue on through the video. So last night I absolutely wanted to take a giant dump all over this game. Like, I was very frustrated, and I was frustrated and motivated to make my review video just because I was so frustrated. And I did realize at the time that that was a very bad move to make. Like, that wasn't a good idea. So I did end up going to bed, letting my mind clear, woke up today, and I'm motivated to just make a very clear-cut video giving you guys my opinions on both the things that I like and the things that I absolutely cannot stand about Modern Warfare. So we're going to start with the positives. I will get to the negatives at the very end of this video, but to start with the positives of this game, I absolutely love the weapons, and I absolutely love the setting and the weapon customization. So I love the fact that I can take weapons and turn them into other weapons. I love the way that the weapons look, the graphics of the weapons, the camo system I think is fantastic. It's a lot more grindy. I don't necessarily like some of the challenges that you have to do to get those camos, but I love how they did the camos this year. I also like a lot of the camos. I can't say the same thing for the past, like, 2 Call of Duty games. Wasn't a huge fan of a lot of those camos. Also, I don't know if you guys have seen the new gold camo, but I think that the gold camo is top 3, like one of the top 3 best gold camos we've ever had in Call of Duty. So very happy with that, and as you guys know, customization is very important to me. I'm also very excited for the characters. I think that the character customization has a lot of potential. I think that they could do a lot of stuff with this. As long as they don't just take all of the really cool stuff and put it behind a paywall, then we're fine. I mean, if they do, at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal because it is just cosmetics, but I would really like to see those things be unlocked through gameplay, at least some of them. I know that they don't, they don't have to put all of the cool stuff in the game to be unlocked. They can take some of that stuff and put it up in the store, but I would really like to see the majority of the cool character variants and costumes and uniforms and all that be something that I can unlock just through playing the game. Another thing that I feel like they've gotten right for the first time since Black Ops 2 has been kill streaks, or maybe Black Ops 3, I guess. But kill streaks in this game I'm very happy with. I think that I get my shit rocked when the enemy team has a lot of kill streaks, and I mess things up on the enemy team when I have a lot of kill streaks. So I just think that it's a very rewarding system, and it does a lot for me when I play. Like, when I get a kill streak, I actually feel happy to get that. Like, I'm actually motivated to hurry up and use that, whereas within the past, few years, I did not care at all if I got a kill streak most of the time. Like, I was just like, oh, it's okay, I'll get around to using that whenever. But in this game, I think that they actually do a lot of damage. This one is a small thing, but I really like the yellow numbers that pop up on screen. If you guys weren't aware, as far as I'm aware, and I've played all of the Call of Duty games over the past, basically since like COD 4, the yellow numbers that they brought back when you get kills, we haven't had that since Black Ops 2, I want to say, and I don't know what it is about that, but it makes it super satisfying when I get a kill, seeing those bright yellow numbers pop up on screen, and the way that they multiply on each other when you do multiple things at once. That just makes me feel so good inside when I do really well. So I'm glad that they brought that back to the game. The next positive thing that I want to talk about is I think that they absolutely killed it with the atmosphere in this game. I think that it works really well with, like, Search and Destroy and Cyber Attack. Those 2 game modes to me are so much fun. Absolutely love playing those modes. Now, I don't play them as much as I'd like to just because I'm grinding camos and stuff like that, but this is the most fun I've had with a Search and Destroy in a Call of Duty since probably Ghosts, and both of those games really capitalize on that setting, and I think that they just make it feel really good for the player themselves when they're doing things like, creeping around the map and all the different little spots that you can go to and navigate towards and have to be aware of. All of that is great. I also really love the way that you can sound horror, the fact that you can hear footsteps clearly. Some people think it's a little much, and I can kind of understand that. If they wanted to tone it down a little bit, I can understand, but this has been the first Call of Duty game ever that I can say that if somebody is around me, I can hear them. And like I said, it might be a little bit ridiculous, but The only other Call of Duty games that I can think of where I could clearly hear footsteps when I needed to hear them, like I actually still had to try to hear them though, was Call of Duty Ghosts and Black Ops 2. Those two games, you know, I could hear footsteps clearly for the most part in those games, but man, it's a great game for footstep audio in general. The guns sound super beefy. The characters, I mean, I don't really like the fact that they shout things out and the enemy team can hear it, but regardless, I like that they have these interactions. You know, when your character gets stunned, he'll say some stuff in response to him getting stunned. I just really like things like that. So overall, very satisfied with those things in the game, and that does cover a decent chunk of the things that I like about the game, if we're being completely honest, like of the things that really matter to me anyways. But let's talk about the negatives. We just talked about game modes for Modern Warfare. I'm going to discuss game modes again, and this kind of has to do with spawns too, so I'll mix that into this as well. So games like TDM and Domination, which Team Deathmatch is probably my favorite mode in Call of Duty, just because I like to focus on kills most of the time, so I'm kind of bummed about this, but Team Deathmatch and Domination are hit and miss. Sometimes I feel like they're really great, a lot of fun. Other times I feel like they're very frustrating depending on the map. So with those games, it feels like you can get pushed so far back into a spawn, or you can push somebody else so far back into a spawn, and the spawns just won't flip. Like, they won't change, they won't move, nothing, and that's very frustrating to me on both ends. Like, even if I'm the team pushing people into a spawn, it's irritating because you usually have your 5 other teammates or 9 other teammates, depending on what mode you're playing, also standing right there waiting for these players to come out of their spawn. It's not very enjoyable. You're shooting at the same spots every single time that somebody comes out of their spawn. You're having to compete with other people for those kills, and it's just irritating, where I wish people would spawn out so that way you could actually turn around, try and get the next spawn trap, try and get the next flank on wherever they set up, and this game just has a big issue with that. I do think that issue is going to be fixed. Joe Seacott put up a post on Twitter recently saying that was some of the stuff they were looking into, so yeah, I'm excited about that. Hopefully that's fixed fairly soon. The next game issue that I want to talk about is Ground War. For some reason in the beta, I loved Ground War, absolutely loved it. It was the highlight of the beta for me. I had so much fun. So when I put the game in and installed it, I was ready to play Ground War. I was hyped and I was excited for Ground War specifically. Unfortunately, for some reason, it's not as enjoyable in here, especially Tarkov District. That map, whew, I got some choice things to say about Tarkov District. Don't like that map. That map feels like it should be a 50v50 map. It just does. Like, I don't see how they thought that putting 64 players on that map was a good idea. I feel like there's a lot of times where I'm just searching for people, running around everywhere looking for people. I'll go literally minutes without seeing people on Tarkov District, and for a Call of Duty game, that's just no bueno. Let's talk about the maps in general. So within Modern Warfare, the maps are getting a lot of hate, and I feel the same way about the maps, honestly. Like, I come from the past several years playing on 3-lane maps. I do prefer 3-lane maps, but I will admit that over the past year or so, 3-lane maps have gotten very stale. I'd say probably starting with COD World War II. They got very stale, and I did want something different. The problem is I don't feel like these maps are different in the way that Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3 maps were different, and COD 4. Granted, I think that some of these maps are going to take some time for people to play on and to get used to, and then maybe they will feel like that. I will admit that that might be the case, but I do think there's some maps that without some changes to the, not necessarily the whole layout, but some of the excess stuff that's there, some of the excess buildings, some of the excess clutter and cars, they will never feel like classic Call of Duty maps. They're going to feel like those maps from those games that people never wanted to play. Almost every single map in this game that I don't like reminds me of Downturn from Modern Warfare 3. It's like they took all of the good maps and hid them somewhere, and then put all of the ones that people normally wouldn't play in a Call of Duty game that has 15 maps, and put them in the game. And it's very irritating. It seems very blatant and obvious. Like, I'm gonna look at Modern Warfare 3 maps just for the sake of it. If you take these maps like Razam or Ramaza or whatever that map's called, not a very good map in my opinion. It's gotten better the more I've played it, but if you take that map and you compare it to something like Village from Modern Warfare 3. Village was not a 3-lane map at all. absolutely not 3-lane, but it flowed. It had a flow to it, and that was an enjoyable map. If you take Piccadilly and let's compare that to something like Mission. Now I know they're completely different layouts, but Mission was, I mean, you could technically say that Mission was 3-lane because it had the middle and the two sides, but within the middle and the two sides there was like, it was like a maze of different routes you could go. Those maps don't compare. They're like, they're not the same. But if you take something like Downturn and you look at the way that map, like, I couldn't tell you right now what the layout of Downturn was because I despise that map so much. But if you look at Downturn and you compare that to Piccadilly and you compare that to a lot of the maps that we have in the game, Euphrates Bridge, stuff like that, they have very similar, like, just just boring, gross layouts, gross spawn points, and it's just bad. Now I realize and I understand that more than likely the maps will not be getting changed. They're already in the game, they're set in stone. I know that they have the ability to fix some of these issues on the maps. They can definitely remove some of the clutter. They can definitely block off some of the doorways and windows that don't need to be there. The only way they'd be able to do that is to do it one at a time, remove a map from rotation, make some changes, put it back in rotation. They did this in COD World War II, they did this in Black Ops 3, there isn't a reason why they couldn't do this again, especially considering that these maps are, in my personal opinion, some of these maps are the worst maps we've ever had in Call of Duty history. And there's a lot of people that would back me up on that. If you look at Twitter, it's pretty bad. That issue aside, let's talk about the next thing that I'm not necessarily happy about, the mini-map. So before the game came out, I just kind of settled with the fact that we were going to have a mini-map without red dots popping up when people shoot, and that was just how it was going to be. So I kind of got used to that idea. I wasn't really upset about it anymore. It just was what it was. I do have to say that without the red dots popping up when enemies shoot, it contributes to the no flow of things on the maps, and I feel like they should definitely adjust that. They should make that change to where if you're firing your gun without a suppressor, if you're firing your gun, if you don't have ghost, whatever the case is, you should pop up on that minimap, because that lets the other team know, and your team, because it's going to obviously happen for the opposite of you, that lets you guys know, okay, this is the general area that enemies go. And then the more that you play that map, you're going to know this is the general area that all enemies go every time I play this game. So it's going to be one of those repetition things. Right now, I find myself, especially on the maps that have little to no flow, I find myself getting shot in the side, shot in the back, all of these things that are easily avoidable. Even when I'm playing Call of Duty like I have been for the past, I don't even know how many years it's been now, 12 years, something ridiculous. Even when I'm playing Call of Duty like that, and I'm keeping my back protected to what I think is protected, I still somehow manage to get shot in the back, because there is no way to predict spawns. There is no way to really control where the enemy team is going to be and kind of get this map layout, unless you have a ridiculous spawn trap like I mentioned earlier where the spawns won't flip. There's no way to really have full map control, and that is something that just irritates me beyond belief. And I normally play as a solo player, so even playing as a solo player, and you know your whole team doesn't have map control, your team can be in one position, and you can know as a solo player, okay, I need to be here in order to catch the enemies coming from this location or that location, or I need to be here because my teammates are there, so that way we can keep them in this general area. Like, these are things that you know and you understand even after the first few days of playing Call of Duty on some of the maps. This game, there's probably 2 or 3 maps that you can do that with, in my opinion. You can do this in Arklov Peak, Hackney Yard, and Gunrunner. I think those are the 3 maps you can get away with that playstyle, so it's super irritating to not be able to do that to the fullest extent. The last thing that I want to talk about before I move on to my final topic is this. Karma put out a tweet saying, imagine Favela, but them opening up all of the doors to all the buildings. That's how a lot of these maps feel. You know, people can say that it was like Modern Warfare 2, it was like, you know, this and that, because I have seen those comments, but in reality, I mean, the concept of the maps being hectic is correct, and I get that. But they have this new addition with the doors and the windows everywhere and the leaning feature that was not there in those games. It makes those maps super campy, ridiculously campy. So when you have loud footstep audio, when you have claymores that you can't get away from, that's also something that they said they were looking into, and you have these maps designed the way that they are, it's a recipe for a camp fest, as well as the time to kill being faster. It is a absolute camp fest, and I've adapted to this. I understand that I have to camp in order to get good games, but I don't think I've played a single game on Piccadilly, for instance, that I have gone positive. I don't think that there's been a game that I've gone positive on Piccadilly. A lot of my deaths from Piccadilly come from getting off of spawn and getting shot from a random direction that I cannot see, or from them sitting in the back of one of the corner buildings and I have to go through there to try and get to an enemy's location. It is unbearable in those instances, and if I catch it in time, there are several maps that I just completely back out of the lobby. I don't even play them. I back out of Euphrates Bridge a lot. I back out of Piccadilly. I back out of Anaya Palace. Like, those three maps right there are probably the three worst maps, in my opinion. I might be forgetting one, but those three maps are very bad, for my own personal opinion. The last thing that we're going to talk about is actually going to be the netcode and the time to kill. So I personally don't have much of an issue with the time to kill when it works the way it's supposed to. I'm okay with it being a slightly faster time to kill. This time to kill doesn't feel as fast as Call of Duty Ghosts. Call of Duty Ghosts, I went back and played it recently, actually, back in like, it's probably been a couple of months. That was an absolute melt machine. Like, the way that game played, I think it was a 2 to 3 shot kill for most weapons. You were dropped instantly. This game is still your standard 4 to 5 shots to kill on most weapons, and that is very similar to things like Black Ops 2 and World War II and the games that we've had. I just feel like the hit detection for most people is a lot better in Infinity Ward games. Infinite Warfare was the same thing. I mean, hit detection was very clean. It felt like you died faster in a lot of cases. And so it seems like you're dying a lot faster, which technically you are. But I think that hit detection's a lot better, and I'm happy about that. But the netcode needs to be addressed. And I don't know what's going on there. I'm not an expert with this. But there are a lot of instances where I feel like I get destroyed and just deleted off the map in a frame. Like a single frame. Which, one frame is like 1/50th of a second or something like that. So like it's literally like I see a bullet and then I'm dead, and it doesn't make any sense. The headshot multiplier is probably a part of that fast time to kill, but it just doesn't seem right, because sometimes I'll get in gunfights and I can tell I'm being shot and I need to duck, take cover, heal, and then get back into the fight. Other times it's like I don't even see right on my screen. It's just instantly dead. So netcode needs to be worked on. There are some things that need to be tuned and tweaked, but overall, that is my review and first impressions for the Modern Warfare multiplayer. I do enjoy the game at its core. I like the movement. I like the grittiness and the more realistic style. I love the weapons. I love the amount of weapons, the challenges, the customization, the way that the characters work. I love all of that stuff. The maps are just a huge problem for me, and the netcode, like, that's a problem in the spawns. But I'm sure that they're going to fix the spawns. I'm just really weary of the netcode staying the way it is all year, as well as the maps being the way that they are. As long as they come out with good DLC maps, then I think we'll be fine, because the amount of DLC maps that we will get will outweigh the amount of bad base maps, I guess. Anyways, guys, that's everything that I have for this video. If you did enjoy it, please leave a comment down below about your opinion, as well as leave a like and subscribe for more content, and deuces.